There's a slight delay between what she sees and what I do and what she sees. So I wave, I count to 3, and then she smiles. Waves back. Here we go. Is this someone new? Good morning. What's your name? Shandel?
November, next month.
Did you hear her last time?
November.
Her name is November?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're up. Can you hear us? Okay, good. Thank you.
Shandel, where are you from? Where are you from?
I'm from New Jersey.
New Jersey, okay. Shandel, we're running out of space on the pad here. How do you like that? Shandel,
Do you know anything about computers?
November. Shandel, have you learned Tanya before?
Yes.
Oh,
If you know a lot, then you'll probably remember the other class.
well, I wouldn't say this class isn't for dummies.
I'm not saying it's for dummies, but if you have extensive knowledge.
It's for beginners like me. Every time I learn Tanya, I think I've never learned this before. I really must learn this better. Okay, we're in chapter 8. We're talking about dangerous territory. What happens when a person does something against the Torah? Eats food that the Torah says you're not supposed to eat. Does some activity the Torah says don't do that. What happens? What do you do about it? We were talking about tshuva. Tshuva means it's just a process. It's very obvious, but not so easy. And really, it's very easy too. Once a person came to one of the Rebbeim, not Lubavitch, a different Rebbe, and said, I want to do tshuva. Rebbe, I want to do tshuva, but I don't know how. What should I do? He said, you want to do tshuva, you don't know how. How did you learn how to sin? He says, I just did it. He said, well, it's the same thing with tshuva. Just do it. I don't know. I just did it. What are you putting in that drink?
It's cereal and a cup of milk.
That's cereal you're pouring into the drink?
Yeah, but it's not a drink, it's just milk. It's just like a bowl, but it's a cup instead of a bowl.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, Chaya Atkins is here. I saw her. Hannah is here. Leah is here. Yes, we're doing it. Rachel is here. Rachel Hannah Tahir was her birthday yesterday. Batya. Yaira Katz is on Zoom. Gianna is preparing a bowl of cereal. Shirel just came in. Miss Cohen Saban.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Good morning.
Sola.
Hi.
Hi, Sola. Sharon is no longer here, right?
No, she is.
Yeah?
Yeah, but she's not in the class now.
She's in
Sharon Sontag is not here. Hannah Rubin is here. Yes. Ronnie is here. Hannah McGrath
Yes.
and Shandel November.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Rivka Ram.
I'm here, Rebecca. I mean, not Rivka. I'm here as well.
Of course I know you're here. You just did the Zoom. Is there anybody whose name I did not call?
I'm really proud of you.
I'm so tired.
Okay.
I know it's,
I'm going to say a blessing and thank the Almighty for creating everything in the world, including this cup of coffee.
That we need.
So what happens if a person eats or drinks something that's kosher, but is not thinking about serving Hashem? Goodness gracious, I have to think about serving Hashem. Yeah, that's what we're enjoined upon to do. We should be thinking the whole time. Hasidim say it should be our first thought when we wake up in the morning. What can I do today for Hashem? Here's a story. Here's Batya. Baruch Hashem. Class can't start until you come, Batya. It says the Baal Shem Tov wanted to know who would be his next door neighbor in the world to come. He hoped it would be somebody wise, somebody with Yireh Shamayim. And he was led by heaven to a shepherd, an unlearned shepherd. Didn't know how to say Tehillim, didn't know anything, had never been to Cheder. He just took care of sheep. And there he was on the hillside taking care of his sheep. And the Baal Shem Tov watched from behind a tree, I guess, so he wouldn't be seen. And this young shepherd said, Hashem, Hashem, how I love you. How can I serve you? What can I do? I don't know how to pray, but I know how to play this flute. And so he played on his flute, and he played and he played and he played on his flute. You hear this? Mm-hmm. Until he was so exhausted that he collapsed. Like in a swoon. You know what a swoon is? A swoon is like when you faint. Oh, here is Sharon, yes? Sontag. Yes. Are you hot wearing that scarf? It's not cold out. I wore a scarf today and I was very hot. And then the story goes on that he sang a song. He woke up and he said the same thing, Hashem, Hashem, how I love you. But what can I do to serve you? And so he sang a shepherd's song. And he sang with all his might until he fainted. And when he woke up, he did the same thing a third time. Hashem, Hashem, I love you so much, but what can I do to serve you? I know how to do tumble salts. That's what they call it here. Other people call it somersaults. You know, when you roll. I can do tumble salts. I'll do these tumble salts for you, Hashem. And he tumble salted until he fainted from exhaustion. And then he woke up. He said, Hashem, Hashem, I love you so much. What can I do for you? I would love to give you, all I have is this one coin. Hashem, I'm giving you this coin. And he threw the coin up into the heaven, into the sky. And the Baal Shem Tov saw a hand reached out and took the coin. Wow. So, okay, Hashem, if this is who I'm supposed to be beside in the world to come. But the lesson is if this simple shepherd boy was on a very, very, very high level. And since we heard the story, I hope we all heard the story, that means that it's instruction. Because one of the things that Baal Shem Tov taught us is everything we hear and everything we see should be an instruction on how to serve Hashem. Yesterday, I saw Elijah the prophet.
Well, what?
You want to say, what did he look like? I might say he looked like Rabbi Majeski, but that wasn't what he looked like. I might say he looked like the Rebbe, but that wasn't what he looked like. On Eastern Parkway, there's a gardener. He's about 6'2". He has other people who work for him. He's a nice person. His name is David. I was standing crossing the road, Eastern Parkway. David came over and he said to me, I said to him, are you enjoying the nice weather, David? He said, yes. Is this global warming? I said, I don't know about that. I think it's Crown Heights warming. And he laughed. And as we stood waiting for the light to change so we could cross Eastern Parkway, he said, I hope the Lord has something good in store for us. And then we went on our way. I said to myself, nothing happens in the world by accident. I guess that was a message. Maybe that was Elijah the prophet.
Could be.
Could be.
Why not?
Came to tell me something from heaven.
Why not?
I hope the Lord has something good in store for us soon, right away, before the class is over. So that's how we have to, that's the attitude we have to have. We have to hope always. That's called bitochen, hoping for the good. Tzipia l'geula, waiting anxiously for the geula. And like the shepherd boy, from the moment we wake up to think, what can I do, Hashem, that you will appreciate it, it will be good for you. All for like a person who works and is dedicated to his employer and everything he does is all for the boss. Well, if a person doesn't have that, page 128 on the bottom, but if he eats just for himself and not for the boss, doesn't eat for the sake of being able to serve Hashem with all his strength until he faints in a swoon. On the other hand, he's permeated by the Yetzer Hara. And what he does is solely to satisfy his craving for a cup of coffee or a banana or a yogurt or whatever. Even if the thing is permissible, the life that he gets from it descends into the area of the utter evil, complete evil of the three impure klippas. Remember, klippa means shells. Oh, here's Rosh Hashanah, second day of her new year. How is it going? Should get better and better, day by day. So even if the food is permissible, but it's not dealt with in the right way. No, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead a paragraph. If it's not permissible, something not permissible, that a person desires to have, or even thinks about desiring to have it, then that means that he is possessed by a Yetzer Hara. He's possessed by the forces of impurity, which is called the Yetzer Hara of the nations of the world. Because the souls of the nations of the world are inspired, enlivened from this same level of the three impure levels. Three impure levels are like shells or peels on a food that we don't really want. We don't really want it. But that's where the life is coming from. It's very, the life of the godly life is very, very hidden. It's so hidden that we can't use it. It will overpower us. And therefore the Torah tells us, don't go there, don't do it. Stay away. This is not good for you. Like the example I gave you of the bottle of iodine. Iodine used to be used if you cut yourself, fell and you had a cut on your knee. Your mother would put iodine on it and it would burn and hurt, but it would clean the germs. However, if the food was kosher food, as we learned in the last chapter, where he's repeating this here, and you crave this yogurt or banana or a cup of coffee or Danish from Gumbos, whatever it is, then this is a Yetzer Hara. It's called a Jewish Yetzer Hara. That's surprising. Can you have a Jewish Yetzer Hara? Yes. It says in the Hayom Yom, not only can you have a Jewish Yetzer Hara, you can have a from Yetzer Hara. Yes, you can have a from Yetzer Hara. If your frumkeit is going to prevent you from doing a mitzvah, it's a from Yetzer Hara. Like for instance, if a person is let's say there's someone without clothes on, the Talmud gives this example. A person is drowning and she has no clothes on, and someone sees her and someone says, why don't you jump in and save that woman's life? He says, she has no clothes on, it's not sanua. So that's a frum Yetzer Hara. He's trying to be frum, but meanwhile, this person is going to drown. You can't stand by and watch a person drown. If you see a person in trouble, you have to right away help them. During the summertime, people go up to the mountains. It's very nice to see when a person has a problem with his car, a flat tire, or they run out of gas, or the radiator boils over. Many cars will stop to help, even though it might make them late for Shabbos. They will stop and help. But a person says, well, I have to get to my bungalow by Shabbos. I can't stop and help this guy. That's a from Yetzer Hara. He thinks he's being from. He's doing what Hashem wants. But our first responsibility is to help someone else. The boys who work, the young men who work in Hatzalah, for instance, one of them told me once that he couldn't wait when he joined Hatzalah, he couldn't wait to get his first Shabbos call. Because then it's a mitzvah to drive on Shabbos, to go help somebody who's in an emergency. Okay, but if a person refrains from helping somebody else for religious reasons, that's called a Jewish Yetzer Hara. Or really what the Alter Rebbe is talking about here is more down to earth. It means eating kosher food with a terrific appetite. My sister-in-law, my wife's sister, is married to a young man from Brazil. He was on an airplane once, and there was a person there who was very, very heavy. He had to occupy 2 seats. He bought 2 seats because he was a big fellow. And they served food on the plane. They used to do that. I don't know if they still do serve meals. Maybe it's only in first class. But they served food to everybody. And he took 2 portions. Whatever they gave him, he took a second one. And he made sure that it was kosher, had a kosher seal on it. But he took a second one. In the end, the stewardess offered him dessert. He said, what's the dessert? She says, ice cream. He says, oh no, I can't have the ice cream. I'm on a strict diet. So eating gluttonously, overeating, drinking too much. Rebbe said, a young man wants to drink at a Farbrengen, he can have 4 ounces. The 5th ounce comes into this category. It's pure Yetzer Hara, Jewish Yetzer Hara. He's eating that, drinking the 5th ounce and more because he wants to be close to Hashem. He wants to be a Hasidic Shebacher. It's a Yetzer Hara, a Jewish Yetzer Hara. Okay? But since it's kosher and therefore the life that he gets from it will schlep him down into the Sholish Klippas of Tameas. But since it's kosher in the first place, he can redeem it when he does tshuva, and that's not going to be easy because he likes to drink, and he will have to limit himself to only 4 ounces, 4 little cups. Nevertheless, it goes on. He goes on page 129. So he can redeem it. He can schlep the life back up into holiness. But what about in the meantime? Until he does that. In the meantime, before he does tshuva, then his life is coming from Klippa and Sitra Achra. And now, as we've mentioned before, in the last chapter, we mentioned this. In the middle Hebrew name, second Hebrew lines, page 129. And even after he does tshuva, now comes the catch-22. Not such good news. There's still a stain, an after stain, like the stain on your blouse that doesn't quite completely come out. The blouse is clean. There's no question about its cleanliness, but there's still that stain. Harashima mimenu nisher davuk baguf. The stain remains stuck to your physical body because your physical body got nourishment from that food. And the food was not eaten in a proper way, and it has an effect on you. And I recall again, now this is the 3rd or 4th time, the story about the little boy who had the soup on Hanukkah. From the kosher soup, from the wedding in the kosher hall, but the wedding had a problem to it, and the Rav said, anybody eats this food is not kosher. The wedding was not permissible. The man was marrying a woman he was not allowed to marry. And this affected the child. When he grew up, he could not learn Gemara. And his parents didn't understand why all his brothers were so capable in their Torah learning, and he was floundering. It turned out because he ate from this forbidden food. So what is he saying? It's saying that even though he didn't do it willingly, but if it's forbidden, for whatever reason, even though it's kosher in its source, it will leave a stain. And therefore, bottom of page 129, this is the second time we have this expression, and it's the last time. The Alter Rebbe only mentions this twice in the whole Tanya. Chibut HaKever is what the suffering the body undergoes when it decomposes in the earth, which is a big blessing for the body because it cleanses the body just like a garment at the cleaners. It gets clean, and then it's able to participate in godliness in the time of the resurrection, which is only fair because you need your body to do all the mitzvahs. Your body ate the kosher food. Your hand gave the charity. Your legs brought you to yeshiva. Your eyes looked up into heaven. Everything you did deserves its proper reward. Because without that physical body, without the teeth and the tongue, without the lungs to breathe and to speak, you couldn't daven, you couldn't eat, you couldn't learn, you couldn't get to yeshiva without your legs. Everything involved in your mitzvahs deserves a reward. Malka, welcome. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Girls, this is a general rule. Never be shy because it's late. Don't stay on the second floor if you come late. Come late. but come. Because what you're going to hear in the last minute of class is just what you needed to hear. That's why your soul came into the world today, on that day. And the world wouldn't be the same without it. Without it. Rachel O'Connor, I have to mark you here. We're waiting for Shoshana Chassid to show up. She's going to walk in one of these minutes. Okay. How can she not walk in? She's a Chassid. Okay, so that's called Chibut HaKever. He translates it as purgatory of the grave. The worms go to town. I remember hearing this story when I was just finding out about Yiddishkeit, about a man. He was not religious person, not observant. He was Jewish, you know. In the old days, people were very Jewish, but not necessarily so observant. And he was a very wealthy person, supported many causes, but he didn't put on tefillin. And he passed away. There was a big funeral because he was a big shot in the community. He supported a lot of causes. So a lot of people came to the funeral. And one of the important people in the community, maybe the mayor or someone like that, his wallet, when they were shoveling in the grave, his wallet fell into the grave. Here she is. You see, if we spoke about Moshiach. Okay. So he went to the rabbi. He said, what am I supposed to do? I had a lot of money in my wallet, maybe $100,000. It fell into the grave. And the rabbi said, well, we never dig up a body except for the most extraordinary reasons. But since you're such an important person in the community, so I think we have to, and this is such an unusual thing, we have to open the grave and retrieve the wallet. And they opened the grave and they saw that even though it had only been a day since the funeral, the worms had already begun to attack the body. Where? In the place where he did not put on tefillin. Who showed them the way? GPI. Is that what it's called? GPS. They have their own GPS. That's what happened. And just like your garment is very happy to go to the cleaners, the body is very happy to undergo this suffering, because at the end, it's clean and it can participate in a goodness that's way beyond anything that it's ever known, anything that it's ever done. Page 132. Now we're going to learn about something else. Similarly, okay, so therefore, this is the cleansing of the body from this, what we just spoke about. Let's get it clear in our minds. What we just spoke about, idea number one, is the cleansing of the body from Jewish demons, from Jewish Yetzer Hara. So since I gave into my Yetzer Hara, but it was a kosher Yetzer Hara, so therefore I need the cleansing of the grave. If it was not a kosher Yetzer Hara, that's a different story. If the food was forbidden, then it's like in the last chapter we discussed this, we need a much, much deeper tshuva, a much more intense and passionate tshuva to elevate, to redeem that life from the three impure klippas. Now we're getting, so that's two scenarios. Excuse me. One is what happens if I do something that's really forbidden, and therefore the word for forbidden is tied down, asur. Asur means tied down in the clutches of the evil forces. The second scenario is if it's tied down in by Jewish demons, because it's basically permissible, but just wasn't done right. Now, the same thing applies, scenario number three. What happens if, The idea is learning Torah. I have a chance to learn Torah. A person has a chance to learn Torah. Instead, goes to a rock concert. I have a chance to keep Shabbos. Instead, I go to the basketball court. I just play ball. So I'm not breaking Shabbos. I'm not keeping Shabbos. That's properly, but I'm not breaking Shabbos. You're allowed to play basketball on Shabbos. Although some rabbis say better not because it's like weekday activities. So let's say I skip the shiur, I skip the Torah class, and I just go for a walk. Or I watch a Rebbe video. Yeah. In other words, I don't go to the Torah class. What about that? Well, why didn't you go to the Torah class? Maybe I never went to Cheder. Maybe I don't know how to learn. So if a person never had learned Aleph Beis, like a lot of people today in the world, a lot of young people, never got a Torah education, and they cannot sit down with a book and learn Chumash or Rashi or Tanya or Rambam. They can't. So they never use the power of speech to learn Torah. And they were given power of speech in order to learn Torah and to daven, and they can't. So what's going to be with them? What's going to be? Says the Rebbe here, page 132 at the top. Oh, he gives the example here. Instead of learning Torah, he talks about baseball. He compares baseball averages. Or talks about, if you ever watch the Olympics, the athletes, they get marked, and he compares the marks that this one got or that one got. What did the Russian athlete get? What did the American athlete get? Idle chatter, that's called idle chatter. So that's a transgression from the element of air, ruach, misusing the element of air. So his cleansing is not going to be so much in the grave from the worms. His cleansing is going to be from the kaf hakela. What is kaf hakela? Kaf hakela, he translates it as the sling. What is a sling? When I was young, my family lived in Florida. They have a sport in Florida, a Spanish sport called highlight, where a person ties like a baseball mitt, only it's not a baseball mitt. It's like that. It's a curved thing, like a banana.
Lacrosse?
It's what?
Lacrosse?
The cuff?
Lacrosse.
No. It's highlight. And they're very, very wonderful athletes. They tie this onto their hand, and it's got a curved thing like that you could catch a ball in it. And they take it and they throw the ball against the wall, and it rebounds back, and the other guy has to catch it in his thing and throw it back. And it's like handball, only it's very, very fast. It's highly, very exciting. Okay. Now that's called a sling. That's what they do to the body of this person. It's called a sling. Puts him into a sling. A sling's like an old-fashioned slingshot. Like you see the illustrations of David the Melech. What was his sling? It was just like a leather thong. And he put a rock, a stone in it, and he went shh. And he was expert. And he could direct it. He had practiced a lot when he was tending the sheep. He had practiced a lot, and he could aim it very, very exactly. And he hit, Gullis was covered in armor. He could barely move. He was so heavily armed. And there was one chink of an opening here so that he could see his forehead and his eyes, so he could see where he was going. And David HaMelech hit him with the stone right in his forehead and knocked him out. So that's the sling. So they do that to the person's neshama. That they take to his nefesh habahamis, to his animal soul, to his Jewish animal soul, to his human soul, not to his godly soul, to his human soul. and they take this and they fling it from one end of the world to the other. And whoa, what? And he opens his eyes, and there he is doing some ridiculous activity, like talking about baseball scores. And he says, what am I doing here? And just as he realizes that this is where he is, they take and put him back in the sling, and they go there again, whoa, and they throw him the other way. And he opens his eyes, and there he is in the Elysian fields, in the world to come. And he experiences a feeling of peace and holiness and godliness that he never had in his whole life. It's so wonderful. He just wants to stay there. And then they take his nefesh, his animal Jewish soul, and they put him in, and they fling him back, and he wakes up, and there he is in the Bensie's. What's the name of that restaurant in the corner? Mendy's. He's in Mendy's. Pressing on a beef burger. And what am I doing here? I was just in heaven. And now I'm here with beef burgers. That's what I'm doing with my life, beef burgers. And just to realize what a beef burger is, they take them, they fling them back into heaven again. And so he wakes up, he sees truth, he sees emes. And then fling him back here, and he sees the way godliness is hidden in this world. And it's like taking a rug. You ever do this before Pesach? 2 months till Pesach, girls. We got to start cleaning the room. Uh-oh.
Not even 2, less.
Yes, 6 weeks. 7 weeks till Pesach. You're going to take your rug from your floor. You're going to hang it on a line. You're going to take something, and you're going to whack it, and the dust is going to fly out. So that's the idea. They whack the neshama in this way by flinging it from one end of the universe to the other end of the universe, and all of the nonsense flies out, becomes detached. And that's how you get cleaned from all the idle chatter, idle talk that we engage in. Okay, that's called kaf hakela. Now that's scenario number 3. And now fasten your seatbelts. Scenario number 4. What happens? That was a person who never went to cheder. All he knows how to talk about is how was his golf game. Or, when you go to the country, we used to go to the country for the summer. Everybody who goes to the country has the same conversation. They all, from big Torah scholars to ordinary people who don't learn anything. Everybody goes to the country. They get to their bungalow, and they go to the shul for Shabbos. And before they start Kabbalah Shabbos, you know what they talk about? How was the traffic? How did you come? Which route did you take? Everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody doesn't do it. Everybody does it. So scenario number 3 is for idle talk. But what happens if this is a big Torah scholar? And instead of learning something in his spare time, like on the drive up, instead of learning a sicha, or instead of being marbasedra, or even just talking with the driver, with his companion about the ideas that he was interested in the week's learning, or even telling a Hasidic story. Instead of all that, he just talks about the traffic, okay? So in this case, kaf hakela, right? Kaf hakela, flinging the soul back and forth from heaven to the earth, from revelation to hiding, is not enough. It's not going to do the job, because he could have learned Torah. He had the ability to learn Torah. Instead, he talked about the traffic. So kaf hakela is not going to be enough to cleanse him in this scenario. He must receive page 132, third Hebrew lines. Rak oineshim chamurim, severe punishments. must be meted out because there's a very important mitzvah which he neglected to do, which is learning Torah. We have to learn Torah by day and by night. So someone says, well, what about other things? So the rabbi says, well, if you can find any time that's neither day or night, then that's when you do the other things. Unless you need to learn for the sake of earning a living and supporting your family and being able to giving your kids an education and paying for the mortgage. But if it's just stam because you want to talk about the traffic, then Kafa Keller won't help. So there are specific oinashim, punishments, for a person who neglects the study of Torah. That's a specific transgression, just like eating non-kosher meat is a specific transgression with a specific punishment to cleanse a person from it. So neglecting to learn Torah when you had the opportunity and you had the ability and it was possible has a specific retribution to it. And in addition to that, there's a double. What's the double? The double is that when we have a chance to do a mitzvah, we're supposed to do it. We should do it. And not doing it, remember, we have 4 elements in the animal soul, right? Fire, water, air, earth. Earth gives rise to laziness. That's Yetzer Hara. That's negativity, laziness. So there's a special punishment for laziness, not doing a mitzvah when you had the opportunity. And he says here, what's the punishment? What's the cleansing process for that? It's not hot, fiery chemicals, it's snow. Freezing cold. Since your attitude towards Torah mitzvah was freezing cold, so the cleansing is freezing cold in the purgatory of snow. Okay, we're going to stop there, but let's stop on a happy note that Baruch Hashem, we have this Shabbos of Mishpatim. Mishpatim begins with the mitzvah of an Eben Ivri. Let's say a person has a Hebrew slave and tells us how to treat the slave. That a slave must be treated with kindness and consideration. You have to take care of his wife and his family, so much so that after he does his servitude, maybe he won't even want to leave. Why is he a Hebrew slave? Because he fell into debt. He couldn't pay his debt. He couldn't pay the rent. He couldn't buy food. He couldn't buy clothes for his children. So he went to his good friend, the millionaire who lives on the block and who owns the apartment buildings. And he said to him, can you give me a job? I'll be your servant. Just give me a place to live and enough money to pay for my children to have clothes and food to eat. And I will do everything that you need me to do. Sounds like a good deal. In fact, it's such a good deal, he doesn't want to leave. He sells himself to be English we call it a bondsman, but to be a slave. He can't do anything else that he might want to do. He can't just take off and go to the countryside like we spoke about. He has to do whatever his master tells him to do. He sells himself as a slave, okay? And all the laws of how the considerations we have to take towards a Hebrew slave, we're not allowed to abuse him in any way whatsoever, and we can't keep him forever. After 7 years, he goes out. He goes out, and we have to load him with gifts and presents and help him set up and reestablish his life. What's this all about? Hasidus explains on a deeper level. The term in Hebrew is Eved Ivri. First mitzvah of this week's parsha. Everybody says Mishpatim is all about Eved Ivri. Eved is 70, ayin is 70, base is 2, dollar is 4. What does that add up to?
76.
76. Ivri is ayin, base, resh, Yud. That's 70. 2. Resh is 200. Yud is 10. What does this add up to? 210, 280, 282. Put them together. 282. 2 and 6 is 8. 8 and 7 is 15. 1 and 2 is 3. 358 is the numerical value of Eved Ivri. Who is the Eved Ivri? Who wants to be an Eved Ivri? Raise your hand. Who's the master? Hashem. Hashem is our master. Don't you want to be a servant to Hashem? We all want to be a servant to Hashem. So let's take this one. Toss this pin out. It's had its better days. Okay. You can take this to your Shabbos table, girls. When the Rebbe was sitting Shiva, after the Rebbetzin passed away, that was this week, right? Yeah. So a person came to him from Munkach, a Rosh Hashiva from Munkach. Munkach is, I think, where's Munkach in Ukraine?
Munkach.
Yeah? Yeah. So he said, in our Sforim from Munkach, it brings down that Eved Ivri is, look at this, Mem is 40, Shin is 300. What are we up to? 340. Yud is 10. You see what's coming down the tracks? We're up to 350. What's A? Hes? 8. Adds up to? So the Eved Ivri is connected to Mashiach because the master is Hashem. And the ultimate servant of Hashem is Moshe Rabbeinu. The Eved Ivri.
Good job.